Hello, 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 coaches and leaders. I am so excited. I have Jenny Gills on with me. She is a principal, and we are going to be talking about culture today. We're going to talk all about culture. I feel like there's a lot of episodes I do where we mention culture, and this is all about culture. I'm a culture nut. I believe culture gives us our behaviors and actually how we think, and we don't even realize it. Um, and so we're going to talk about this like very root cause foundational thing that really impacts our schools. It often, I think, gets unseen and untalked about because it's hard to touch and name and see, right? So first, before we jump in, you can already tell how excited I am. Before we jump in, I wanted to welcome you to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I am just as excited as you are because I could talk about school culture and climate all day long, every day.
Yes. Yes. Well, we're gonna geek out here together.
Love it.
So before we start talking about culture, I'd love you to share with everyone what has been your journey in education and what do you do now?
Sure. Well, I sometimes joke that I was practically born on a college campus. I am an April birthday, and my mother was a college professor.
Mhm.
I've really just been around educators my entire life. I have three older sisters. They all became teachers first, and of course, my mom. So I started as a high school Spanish teacher, and I taught in the high school setting for 20 years before I crossed over to elementary school to become an elementary school assistant principal and then an elementary school principal. And here I am now.
I love it. Now, how long have you been a principal?
So this is my 10th year being a principal.
I love it. Okay, good. This is exciting. So, we're going to talk about culture here. And before you start sharing how you have created like this super healthy, thriving culture in your school, I want you to actually share how would you define a healthy and thriving culture?
Sure. That's a really great question. I think one of the first markers is to find a positive culture and a positive place. And what I mean by that is it's not that there are bells and whistles and fairies everywhere. It's really, the language that we use, the things that we have our eyes on that just leverage and make positivity contagious, the way that we speak to each other, the way that we speak to students, the way that we speak to our caregivers. I think all of that. Number one would be probably the first thing I would notice when I came in, how you're greeted. How does it feel? We can't
Yes.
dismiss our feelings. I think a thriving school culture is inclusive. So,
Mm,
what does that look like? So, when I'm looking at anything from a book selection to the way things are decorated in a school, is it inclusive of all? Um, when I when there are projects or activities, is it the principal doing the leading of it, or are you seeing leaders that maybe don't carry a title? So what is that
mm,
capacity? How is each person's strength and capacity being leveraged in a school? Um, are there new and exciting, innovative practices that are happening
mhm.
as there are trends? Are we looking forward? Are we forward thinking in the things that we do? But we're also embracing traditions, right? So we
Mhm.
still have some traditions that are weaved into our culture, and we recognize those pieces. I think a thriving school culture definitely has trust, because
Mm.
without trust, none of these things can take place. You won't hear ideas, you won't see risk taking. So we definitely have trust, and the trust needs to be not only when we're talking about the adults in the building, but it's also the trust that happens with the caregivers.
Mm.
If a caregiver can come into an office, and oftentimes, if let's just say if it's random and they're angry or whatever, they still have to have some type of trust that they're going to be received, and that whatever's going to happen is there's going to be a solution to that, that they can come in. I think just seeing what does student voice look like in the school, that everyone has a seat at the table, I guess. So
Mhm.
I think there are many, many pieces to a thriving school culture, but I would say that the markers are not something that is measured on a state test. They are
Yes.
all the other things that make it a place where people want to learn and people want to grow, where students want to be, and where caregivers feel comfortable
Mhm.
letting us have their most prized possession for 8 hours a
Yes.
day.
Yes, I love how you I love how you're looping in the caregivers too. I often I just felt when we talk about culture, it doesn't get brought up and as a very key stakeholder, right? Like, and not even to use jargon. Like sometimes I just feel like it separates, like this is a key stakeholder, which it is, but or they are, it's a grouping of people, but they are a group of humans that are vital, right?
Absolutely.
To how our schools work and the mission of our schools.
Right. Right. Well, when
Right.
you asked my journey, the first thing I said was I was born into a family of
Mhm,
educators. So even if
mhm,
they hadn't been educators, our caregivers are our students' first teacher, and
mhm.
they really should be celebrated and honored for
Yep,
that.
yep, yep, exactly. It's interesting when I'm walking in and out of schools, I have this very unique position where I go into schools across states, across the United States, and I'm in and out in a day,
Mhm.
often, and then I'm in a different state or a different school the next day, and so I get a very quick feel, like I'm not walking around like, "Show me your artifacts." I'm not doing that. I'm not interested in like what your bulletin boards look like. It's a feel. I walk in and it feels like something, right? And I
Exactly.
love that you were speaking to that because it's pretty immediate. You can feel a culture. Do teachers look me in the I'm a stranger to them, but to a lot of them, right? So it's do they look me in the eye? Do they greet me? Do
Mhm.
they a little while ago there was a school I'd walk in and the receptionist would I'd say how you how's it going? Hey, and I kind of got to know her. She got to know me. I'd come every once in a while, and she started complaining to me. Well, it's been a hard day, and I'm like, oh no,
Oh, goodness.
oh no. So anyway, it all works together. Before we jump into culture even more, I do want to share my analogy for culture because I think it's helpful. And I'm sure I shared this on a very early podcast episode, but I'm going to share it again. So, how I view culture is, and with this analogy, it's with a fish analogy. So, there's this like story, this kind of, I don't know, fable story where two fish are swimming, and one fish says to the other, he says, well, oh, sorry. Whoa, let me start over. There's three fish involved. So two fish are swimming along, and a third fish swims by, and he says, "Water's nice, guys." And he keeps on swimming. And then one fish turns to the other and he says, "What's water?"
Mm.
So the idea that we are surrounded by culture and we don't often know that that is what is informing our and impacting our thoughts, our behaviors,
Mhm.
our satisfaction in our job, right? It's there whether we notice it or not, right? And the
Exactly.
question is, do we purposefully build culture or do we have some kind of default accidental culture that just happened by who showed up? So
Absolutely. That's a
yeah,
great
so
analogy.
yeah, so I just wanted to share that. All right, so I wanted to ask, why did you decide to focus on culture? Often this is not the first thing that comes out of people's mouths. Usually it's focusing on the test scores or, in helping train my new teachers, which are all important, right?
Right.
But why is this a focus of yours?
So I shared that I was a teacher first. And as a classroom teacher, I recognized that I needed the classroom to be a place where students wanted to come
Mhm.
and wanted to come on time and wanted to be present every day. And I guess I never saw being an administrator and having being at school any different. I
Mhm.
felt that I just had a bigger classroom, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So as a classroom teacher, it was important that our caregivers were involved, that I was communicating to them. As a principal, it was the same way. As a teacher, I knew if I could get the student, now this is going to sound weird, like you don't want to say you want to be liked, but let's just say this. Students will work for teachers
Mhm,
that they like and that they respect
mhm.
on
Yep.
tasks that they do not want to do.
Want
You
to
know,
do. Yep.
there were lots of kids that did not want to learn Spanish. Like that was not it. Why do I need to do this? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they wanted the advanced diploma, whatever it was. I was almost a gatekeeper, right? So I needed to hook them into wanting to do their best for me. Just
Mhm,
like they wanted to maybe do their best for their chemistry teacher or their football coach or someone else. So I
mhm,
just recognized that as a teacher. And so as a principal, I wanted just the same. So I
mhm,
knew that the most important people in our work really are our teachers. Number one, I
mhm,
mean, the staff is the one that makes the magic happen. I just get to wear the title, but they make the magic happen. And so I needed them to want to do that and to be
mhm,
at their best,
mhm,
but also to again, just getting to know them. I wanted to make sure that they trusted,
mhm,
that they could make mistakes, that we could fail forward, right?
mhm,
All those things. But I just knew that the people had to be it. So it's the
mhm.
teachers and the caregivers. I needed what do I say? If you're, um, a happy student makes a happy parent, a happy parent makes a happy principal,
Mhm.
all the things like it just all kind of all goes full circle. So
For sure, for sure. It's in line with happy wife, happy life, but
right. Happy,
we need
happy.
to make
Like,
it like nice little rhyming one.
right.
Really great. I love this. So I want to I want to actually jump right into the strategies. Like what have you done to build culture? What have been the I want it like to get the specific strategies and the things you've normalized in your school. I want to get this like very clear, concrete picture of how culture has been built and what culture looks like at your school.
Okay. Great. So, well, where do I start? So again, working on this on the staff and really getting to know the staff as getting to know the staff, not just as in you're my math teacher, but the staff as a mom, as a sister, as a daughter, all the things that was just important for me to get to know them in a way that was different from just the school. So that when I hope that my maybe not my first conversation. I'd like for it to be the first conversation I have each day, but I hope that it's something else. How was that? How was your daughter's ball game yesterday?
Mhm,
I know
mhm,
you're excited about the band competition that your son's getting ready to be in, or things like that. To be able to celebrate and honor them as people,
mhm,
so that was important. As an assistant principal, I had read a book where a particular author had written thank you notes, or no, sent Christmas cards, I think it was, or some type of card to a significant person, somebody from the emergency contact list of their staff. And so I
mhm,
thought, that's a great idea. How can I make that idea work something for me? And this is, I'm saying this, I guess our staff will hear all of this later on,
mhm,
but so I I collected, and I'm still doing it, information on who their significant people were in their life. So for some people, they gave me parents, grandparents, it could be, a spouse or a grown child or something like that, and their address. And so I literally write to every person that they provide to me, and I write it in a form of a thank you note. Um, I share this because I think because just some beautiful things came out of it, but I never expected the caregivers to turn, or their significant people to turn around and write me a thank you note, but they did. They were so
Nice.
impressed, right? But what it did for me was, because I did it for every staff member. So instead of the lens of what are the things that a staff needs to do to grow, to improve, it was what are their strengths? What do they do well? And there was not one staff member that didn't have one or two or three strengths that I could really talk about. So it really shifted the way that I saw staff, especially I came into a school in improvement. So coming into that, particular place and space where we're having to focus on how we grow our school and how we achieve more. It was just really a nice piece. So I did this and I still do this. So I'm doing this today. So if you follow me on social media, you see these green envelopes going out, and I'm not really disclosing what it is. So people who have been around probably know, but they're
Mhm.
always a little surprised when they receive that. So that's kind of one thing, but it's more than that. So let's see. Under some of our staff like treats, right? So,
Mhm.
and you'll see principals doing these, popcorn bar or whatever it
Mhm.
is. We tried to do things that were a surprise. Like I was into the memorable moment, right?
Mhm.
So I interrupted instructional time with I interrupted with always a little bit of music, and it's just a really quick, but I might be like handing you a fresh donut that we're making right there on the cart, right? And
Oh
some
my
milk or
gosh.
and it may have had it's a possibility that there might have been a costume involved or something else, you know.
That's
It's like
awesome.
surprise, teacher treat,
Oh
Um,
my goodness.
but in and out, and just those moments I think were kind of fun and special for some people, right? But some people
Mhm.
it wasn't, and I had to really think about that too, right?
Mhm.
And how
Mhm.
could I honor and recognize that and maybe hit that at a different time? Um, I probably, I don't know, there are lots of things I can these you want some really great takeaways. I'm going to give you my best. As a classroom teacher, I made a phone call to every parent, caregiver, whomever it was before the first day of school, and I taught 150. And so I had encouraged our staff to do the same when I came in, but it wasn't a piece, it wasn't part that was embedded into their culture. Really picking up the phone and making a call was
Mhm.
for something negative, right?
Mhm. Yep, yep, yep.
It took a while. I mean, several like I wasn't gonna say, you have to make this call or, you have to make, I
Yeah.
wasn't gonna do that. I didn't want them to do it because they were checking a box. I wanted it to be something that we did that was natural.
Mhm.
And I got a look, a few who were great, but some still just most still weren't really interested. So I decided when I became principal, I was going to write a postcard to every student and before the school year starts. And so that there are 500 of them, and I handwrite a postcard to every student. The response from the caregivers was incredible. Social media was just blowing up with that they had received this card and how happy they were. But then I also printed another card for
Mhm.
the teachers, and I had it in their mailboxes with the addresses of their students already. So I made it really, really super simple for it. But I felt like, I needed to model it. And then I
Mhm.
wanted, the teachers to do it as well. It's
Mhm.
now just what we do. We have extra cards in the office, and teachers will write notes and just drop them off. They might pick up a stack to do, when we go away on a long break, like say a winter break or a spring break, because they want to make sure that they're connecting with their students. But it took a while.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I still do it. I still every year for 10 years I've written to every student that we have. Um
I need to say, so I have chill, like I have like goosebumps right now from what you just said.
yes,
I love the piece that it's normal. It's normalized. This
yes,
is just what we do now, right? And you had to model, 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 and not say you should do this or I want you to do that, but it originated organically from you
yes.
and eventually became normal behavior. So anyway, I just wanted to
Thank you.
highlight that's the piece that makes it a culture.
It is. That is exactly it. And so now what will happen is the staff who've been there say, when will our postcards be ready? Because some want to do that before the first week of teacher work, the pre-service week. They want to go ahead and get those things done. So we I use lots of markers, so they're very colorful. I try to personalize them as much as I can. And likewise our staff does that as much as they're able to do that as well. So I enjoy it. I also have gotten better at making them very thematic. So when we have a
Mhm.
theme, like this year was try everything. So when you see our card, it goes along with whatever our theme is. So that's just super fun. I think another a takeaway for people who are looking for things, you need to find a way to celebrate staff. So when I first started, again, I was trying to find my way.
Mhm.
It was I'd had some great principals before me, and I was always trying to do things the way that they did them. But it just didn't feel right to me. It
Mm.
wasn't it just wasn't it just didn't feel right. And I,
Yes, I
and,
totally understand that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so I did, I read a few books that kind of validated my thinking, I'm a little bit different. And it was okay to be different. I had to kind
Mhm,
of figure that out. Like it's okay if, it's different if you're an unusual teacher, people don't think anything of it, but I just kind of felt like I had to be this principal.
mhm,
But so I just that kind of validated and gave me a chance to make just take a few risks, I guess.
mhm, mhm,
But I realized that I needed to also be able to give staff, like celebrate staff in ways that were I don't know, unique. So at first, because I wasn't trusting that I could just do this, remember I
mhm,
had to figure out my own way.
mhm,
I got a couple of staff members kind of anonymously to write notes to staff. To it
mhm,
could be it could be a lift you up, it could be a celebrating, and they would put these anonymous notes on their door. Okay. So I
mhm.
had a kind of a team to help me with that. So because I couldn't necessarily see it all either, and I'm still trying to meet and know the staff better. And so what started happening is that this like a thank you email would come out, thank you so much to whomever it was who
Mm,
shared that positive word. I really needed it. So they were going out
mm.
last to the staff. That really was a ripple effect. That became then when somebody else would get a note, it would go out in an email because they didn't know who it came from. And they had
Yes.
no idea that I had a team of people doing it. And they still, until they listen to this podcast, won't know that I was behind
It's
that.
like
But
learning Santa Claus doesn't
yeah,
exist.
exactly, exactly. But I felt I had to do it, and it wasn't they weren't ready for it to be me yet, nor was I ready to be able to see all the things that the staff needed. I didn't know them well enough. I was trying, but it just, you know, I just I wasn't there yet. So from there, from that kind of piece, then we've started adding things like we had a shout out board in the cafeteria. And so we would let, people could just write shout outs, students could write shout outs in there. That transformed to, we have a shout out jar that we keep in the front office, and
Mhm.
people will drop these little shout outs. I think I actually have those these little blue, I don't know if you can see them, but
Yes,
these
I
little
love
shout outs
this.
that they write,
Yes.
and then so I draw them out of the shout out jar, and then they get a special parking space for the week because they're the staff member of the week.
Oh my
We say
gosh.
it on the announcements in the morning at the beginning of the week. We put it in our
Yes.
staff newsletter. So and they're very specific about
Mm.
because it's written from a staff member.
Yeah,
Staff
yeah.
member shouting, or it could be a parent. Sometimes a student
Mhm.
drops in it. It could be anyone. So that's just celebrating them. Since then, I've done some extra things like we do. Oh, I really love this one. We award the game ball. So it's a football. And so we, of course, have to play the Rocky theme. Of course, there's going to be some
Mm.
confetti. You have to have confetti and music just
You have
part
to
of
have
everything.
confetti. I've never seen confetti at a school, and I would pay
Oh,
money to see
okay.
confetti. Like, who is throwing the confetti?
We
How does
are.
this work? Okay, okay, bring me through this whole game ball confetti music thing. Like, what
Okay.
happens?
Okay. So just the other day, we awarded it to one of our special educators. And so somebody who's gone above and beyond for the things that they may do within the school, outside of the school, whatever it could be. And so we have a little speaker.
Mhm.
We
The
all have to play
Bluetooth.
the Rocky theme because it's
Yes.
football. You got to have
Yes.
just football and Rocky go together to me. I don't know. And so, and then we have confetti, and then sometimes we might have balloons. It just depends on what it is, but the football is the thing. The football is the
Thing.
key,
Okay.
right? So we're going down the hallway. Rocky is
Uh-huh.
playing loudly. We get to
Yes.
wherever the room is. Surprise, you are in the game ball. And then we say what it is. The kids are cheering. We've got confetti going on on their head. Take a picture. It's just fun. It's just fun.
Love this so much. This is yeah, like joyful,
It's
right?
joyful and it makes a big moment. So
Yeah.
the football comes with the Rocky theme. Other
Yeah.
things like we have our teacher of the year, we still kind of try to replicate that. So we have like say the celebration song or something like
Hmm.
that. But it's going to be loud and it's going to be in the hallway and the students are going to hear us coming,
Hmm.
right? And then so they know
Yeah.
something's getting ready to happen. So we do
Yes.
kind of fun things like that. Um I I have to I'm going to go outside beyond staff right now,
Yeah.
because when we talk about our school and our school culture, it's really not just the things that we do inside school, it's the things that we do everywhere. So really, how do we embrace, that the work of our caregivers, and how do we include them in things? We used to measure family engagement by how many people you counted that came through your front door. And we know that it's really not about that at
Hmm.
all. It's
Hmm.
about, I mean, that's a piece of it, right?
Hmm.
But engagement is, there's the term invisible engagement, with what are the
Hmm.
caregivers doing at home that's supporting
Hmm.
students' learning, homework,
Hmm.
just getting them ready for school. So how could we connect that? And then how could we take memorable moments to the caregivers, right? If they can't come in for many really valid reasons, then I mean, I will say, for me, my parents, even though I went to school near where we lived, my parents were real, and even though my mom was a college professor, life wasn't easy coming into this country. They're, Cuban immigrants. They started from nothing. I mean, it was hard. So for them to pay to go to a ball game, that just wasn't going to happen. They had bills
Hmm.
to pay. So it wasn't that they weren't interested in coming to my events, it's that they couldn't afford that. So I recognize that some of our
Hmm.
parents can't put gas money to come to school. So we started home visits.
Ah, wow, that's so powerful.
Yeah. So, but our home visits they're not intrusive. They are a surprise. So I'll tell you about them, what it could look like, what it does look like. It's going to have some type of a costume or a prop, a theme, of course, right? There's going to be music. There's going to be confetti, right? There's
Yes.
has to be confetti. And it's going to have some type of a treat, right?
Hmm.
Something that we're going to give to the student. So, let's just say, okay, it's near St. Patrick's Day. So we're going to be all decked out in green, probably have something on our head, some green clover sunglasses,
Glasses,
whatever it
yeah.
might be,
Hmm.
right? And anybody can come, like any of our staff can come and join us if they want to, right?
Hmm.
It's always better to have three. That's like the magic number, but three or more, three or more. And so we're going to show up at a student's house. We're going to knock on the door. We're never going to go in. It's not about that. Where
Hmm.
if the student doesn't answer, if it's the parent, we're here to see, Stephen. And so they come to the door. Of course, we're ready. I mean, we got the music blaring. When we're coming up to the door, the music is already blaring. So we used to choose, like, what song are we going to play? And it was this big, every time we got, what song are we going to play? Well, now we just use our theme song. So the students, when they hear it, because we play that theme song in the morning every day when we start our announcements. So when they hear that, they already know. They're already
Oh my
associating it with
gosh.
school, right? So then, we're there maybe 3 minutes, if that. I mean, it's
Hmm.
short, sweet, and to the point. They choose a prize. Our parents are almost, we have one student who can't be photographed, but every other student, the parents are okay with social media and sharing. So we take a little ussy, and we share that out. But it's the kids will then come back to school and they will talk about it forever. And they will say, I
Hmm.
remember that time you came to my school, came to my house. So I had a parent once who said, I knew you were doing these home visits because I saw it on social media, but I never thought you'd come out as far as we live, right? Surprise! So that's just, I could talk all day. Do you want me to keep talking?
I'm loving all the, I keep getting chills over here. Like it's so amazing to hear the amount of time that you invest in building culture. And I just keep thinking, I think, man, I mean, that takes time, right? That takes
Yeah.
time to make the costumes and drive and prepare. And in my experiences within schools, things will take time on the front end,
Mhm.
being proactive, creating culture, or on the back end, dealing with the impact of not having a healthy, thriving culture.
Sure, sure, exactly. And there is something if I talk specifically about the home visit, because sometimes we may go to a place where it hasn't been a positive start with the parent. I mean, maybe we are having some truancy issues, right? Or maybe
Yeah.
there's some discipline issues. Like, we're not going to not go to some place just because this particular caregiver wasn't happy or satisfied, or maybe our last conversation wasn't the one that we hoped that it would be. We're, if anything, that's going to make us want to go anymore. Like, we feel compelled to bridge any gap that we may have, to be able to strengthen any and every relationship, so that in the end our students are going to achieve more, like they're going to excel more, they're going to
Mhm.
have, they're just going to be positioned to be more successful
Mhm.
in school. So we feel that that is our responsibility, and
Mhm.
that's been, so it's kind of trickled through, right?
Yeah.
Um, because we were doing home visits before COVID, so I'll back up to the pandemic time. It was really hard, especially for us.
Mhm.
We are just now, so it's 2024, getting some internet access across our county, and it's still not
Mm.
100%. So
Wow.
going Zoom, doing this was not an option for us, making school work this way. We were recording videos, putting them on a flash drive, and then having a distribution day every 2 weeks so that parents
Wow.
could come, pick up a flash drive,
Wow.
take, with the materials that we had to photocopy. It was really hard. Okay.
Yeah.
I say that because we were already doing home visits. That connection was there. So I had probably a dozen teachers who we coined this. I'm going to call it lawn learning. How about that? Lawn learning. So they would take chairs,
Mhm.
sometimes an umbrella, because
Mhm.
I mean, could be not at one tree in sight. They would sometimes take like a whiteboard, and maybe the students have them, keep their social
Uh-huh.
distancing, and literally run school in
That's
somebody's yard,
incredible.
right? Lawn learning. It could have been on a porch. It was never in a house, right? Especially during the
Mhm.
pandemic, right? It was never,
Right, right, right.
but our parents were appreciative, and they didn't think it was weird or odd or anything, because we had already made that. So
Mhm.
really we nailed it. We nailed that
Mhm.
piece. Now, did we do it 100%? No, because we
Mhm.
still had our own staff who didn't necessarily feel comfortable, or maybe they had their own children at home that they were also trying to educate as well. But the fact
Mhm.
that that could happen, and that it
Yeah.
did happen, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I will say, because of the work that we were already doing with building a positive school culture, and really understanding um, our students, having a better understanding of our students' trauma, all
Mhm.
the things that had become a part of our work beforehand. The
Mhm.
transition after COVID, I'm not saying that that wasn't hard, because going back to doing school was hard, trying to figure out all the protocols around, COVID. But we have really bounced back in that, in the environment in our school. We do
Mhm.
not, we have pockets of kids. I mean, everywhere you go, you have pockets of kids who just need a little bit more support, but it's not what I read about, what I hear about. I'm in I have a big professional learning network. It's not what I'm hearing is happening in other schools. And I really just attribute that to the positive school culture that we had before this horrible thing happened to us,
Mhm.
because that's really what it was, this horrible thing that happened to us. But
Mhm.
it made it easy for us to bounce back because of what we had
Mhm.
created before.
Culture.
Yeah.
I love this so much. And I just want to briefly share, I was working with a teacher leader recently, and she was saying right now it's pretty common around like exhaustion. There's a lot of like not I mean burnout, but just people are tired, and the testing and the end of the year is coming, right? All of that. And she said, Becca, the culture and I've built such a strong culture. I love coming to school. I'm energized, and the kids are too. We love being together. And she was like, I can't say that around the other teachers because they're so tired. But she's like, we're doing great. And that is the power of culture.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
actually doesn't have to be the way we think it always has to be.
Right. Exactly. And there's still space for those moments that aren't so great.
Mhm.
Things happen every day. Things happen that are sad, or
Mhm.
things happen in the community or
Mhm.
around, that just put stressors on you. So, but when you have a positive school culture, a strong school culture, it
Mhm.
allows the space for you to be able to handle that, and you can
Mhm.
handle that in a way that you have created. You've co-created this with your students, or your colleagues, or whomever.
Yeah.
We all, if I go back to the pandemic, we all handled that piece differently,
Mhm.
and we all experienced it differently, and we have to really embrace that, right? And there
Mhm.
had to be a space for that. So I had teachers who came back, and they were already kind of elevated, because they were rightfully nervous and
Mhm.
concerned, right?
Mhm.
So I had to make sure that I had to tend to those needs still, but
Mhm.
those needs, if I hadn't created, and I say I, and I really mean we, because it's not about me.
Mhm.
I feel that I'm a model for it, but really it's a team effort for us to do this.
Mhm.
But if I hadn't done that, it wouldn't have been just that transition wouldn't have been as smooth. I will share since we're talking about the COVID time. So, that was March. We all remember that time.
Mhm.
And when Teacher Appreciation Week came, I had a young teacher who had been instrumental on attending the home visits with us. And so she and I literally drove to every staff member's house and we took their teacher appreciation gift with music
My
and confetti, of
gosh.
course, right? Gotta have that. Gotta have all the things. We probably had some costumes too, like we might have been hamburger and hot dog or cookie and milk, just depending on the day and what we wanted to put on. It was not easy because you couldn't stop to go to the bathroom anywhere.
Right. Oh my
think we
gosh.
I think we went to 11 different counties. I mean, it was a lot. It took us, days to do that. But, we took them a really cute t-shirt. It was like our with our school logo, but it said, we were marked safe. We had to embrace the moment of that and some other stuff. But, the teachers or the staff, because it was everybody. They
Mhm.
were excited and surprised.
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
but at the same time, they knew that if anybody was going to, I might have had given them a roll of toilet paper too. I mean, who knows?
Oh, the toilet paper
Yeah,
shortage of
yeah,
2020.
yeah.
Wow.
But
I love
that
that.
being said, so too, like I want to say, like we really were when that happened and there were like these shortages, we made sure that we did deliver things to people who we knew had a need. So on the serious
Mhm.
side of it, I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes it was we were trying to get food to someone, a
Mhm.
staff member, a family member,
Mhm.
you know,
Yep.
we
Yep.
we fed our division continued to feed as most people did.
Hmm.
We set up those food
That's
places, but we
amazing.
would
Yeah.
take the extra step and make sure we got it to people who couldn't get there.
I love that because you work in a rural district,
We work in a rural
right? Yeah.
district.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were counting on, our kids eat breakfast and lunch free. We are
Mm-hmm.
high poverty, so they eat breakfast and lunch free. So you can imagine how hard, not only was it, and we're a food desert, we do not have a grocery store in our county.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we have, well, we do, I shouldn't say we don't. We now have a Dollar General that has turned into a DG Market. So there are some fresh things in
Okay.
there, but it's not,
Okay.
yeah, we don't have a real formal grocery store. And so then the access was hard. And then of course the limits were hard of what you could
Mhm.
purchase. So if you were a family of 7, you could only get 1 package of chicken.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just say that because again, it was really, that's why that work is so important because
Hmm.
then when something so awful and
Yeah.
significant like the
Hmm.
pandemic happened, uh,
Hmm.
we
Yep.
were we had us we were able to still reach out.
You're
Mm.
resilient. And I think that goes back to like it doesn't have to be like when tough things happen in our schools, when we have a healthy, thriving culture, it doesn't have to be something that takes the whole school down, right? We
That's
can have a culture that supports resilience. I wanted
right.
to ask you what, and you don't know I'm going to ask this, I
Oh
didn't
goodness.
prepare you for this.
Okay.
What has been your teacher turnover?
Hmm. I love that question because I can say it is it's very little.
Mhm.
So this year, let's just start with this year. So this year I have one of the middle school has not been able to staff their multiple disabilities teacher. So our multiple disabilities teacher is actually going to loop up to the middle
Mhm.
school. So I had to replace that. Done, check.
Mhm.
I have a teacher who is going to leave education, not because she doesn't love being a Duke. She's new to us this year. She says if she comes back to education, she wants to come back to being a Duke. But she just has personal reasons she's going to leave. Filled that position. Check.
Yep. Yep.
Um, I have a librarian who is leaving to be a caregiver. She says her words, if you spoke to her today, this is my dream job. I
Mhm.
don't want to work for anyone else or anywhere else. I want to be here, but I need to do this thing. So
Mhm.
that's the one we're working on. So if you're
Yes.
listening to this podcast and we haven't hired a librarian yet, we are hiring.
We're hiring. And I just want to highlight This is a school that's not like, I don't know how to say, like, in a super desirable location. I'm saying that to say, like, your school culture is so amazing that people want to drive
Yes,
across from 11 counties to
yes,
come teach at your school and stay, right?
yes,
Amidst a teacher shortage
yes. So
where
I will
other
say,
go ahead.
oh, go ahead. No, I'm sorry.
No, 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 no. Go ahead. Go ahead. I
So,
want to hear
so,
what you're going to say.
so that is exactly it. You didn't want to say. I'm going to say, we do not have the amenities that other schools have. We
Hmm.
are not the highest paying place. We do
Hmm.
not have um the extra frills like our own private retirement piece in addition to the state. We don't have those things, right?
Hmm.
The work that we do is really hard, and I'm not saying the work that other teachers do is not hard, but we know and we embrace that it's hard, but we do hard because we do enjoy coming to work. Our why of wanting to be a teacher, that's important, but you could do that anywhere, especially today with
Hmm.
shortage,
Hmm.
right? But they
Yep.
want to come back and they want to work in our place. So I can say that it is the
Yeah.
truth that while we are constantly working on raising salaries and doing all those things,
Yeah.
it's true.
Culture. Yep.
Yeah.
Culture trumps, just pay scale, and right, like those other stuff. Yes, it's important. Yes, we want our teachers to get paid, right? But when you have a healthy culture where teachers truly choose to be there, right? Not just in the district or near their home, but because this is the school, because the culture really supports them thriving.
Yes.
That promotes engagement and not just compliance. And you and I were talking about that earlier.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, I'll share if you want me to share a few other things, little
Yeah, sure,
strategies.
sure, sure. Would
O-
yeah.
Okay, so when this particular year, and it's probably been, I don't know, it's before COVID, so I don't know. It's either before COVID or after COVID, right? So
Yeah.
really I thought as a child,
Mhm.
I felt I went to school in a small school. We were actually a lab school. We were part of a university, and we had 25 students in our class, grades K through 7. It was just such a tight family feel, just within the professors, or teachers. I guess they were teachers. Just the students, just we came from all different walks of life, but it was just a big family. And so I just have wanted that to be a part of the way our school was, and we weren't there yet, right? So I thought, well, okay, our theme, we're going to have a family theme, right? So I'm going to show
Mhm.
y'all my t-shirt. See, my t-shirt says family.
Yes, family. If you're watching on YouTube,
Yeah.
you see her amazing
Yeah.
family t-shirt. Love it.
Yes. So we always do a t-shirt every year for the staff. And so we did the family piece. When we did our open house, instead of sending out a flyer of this is going to be open house, we sent out an invitation. And the invitation was a family reunion, right?
Oh, I love
All
this.
together. We then took our photographer, our school photographer, and we had them come in for family portraits so that our families, if they chose, could come in and do a family portrait. Again, middle of nowhere. That's a pretty nice thing. And they paid, $10 or $8, whatever it was, to receive their, family portrait back. So we offered that there. We really tried to rebrand things. Everything had a family feel to it.
Mhm.
So we had a cup that we gave later on, and it said family on it. We chose a pineapple logo, kind of a welcoming,
Mhm.
Southern logo with our school initials, kind of not monogrammed in there, but
Yeah.
so really just tried to shift and get that feel. And I told you we always had to have a theme song. So of course our theme was "We Are
We're
Family."
family. I was thinking
Had to
that.
have that song. That's what we played every day. But I think that was kind of the beginning. And then we did a big school portrait of our staff, and we're all wearing our family shirts, right?
Mhm.
The language then kind of shifted then, and that's when we really started to talk about our school, like rather than the CCS team, which we still talk about a team, but as being the CCS, Cumberland County Elementary School family. And that really what it was transformative for our school and for our division. We're a small division, but we saw that trickle into um the other schools in the division.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
we're very, very intentional. I think intentional is another, I guess from a leader's point of view, we have to be
mhm,
intentional about what we want the outcomes to be. And
mhm,
so we really put a lot of thought into that. So the
mhm.
family piece is huge. And I would just say,
Yeah.
whatever it takes for you to get that feeling, because at the end
Mhm,
of the day, we spend more time at school,
mhm,
whether we're the staff member or whether we're the student,
mhm,
than most of us spend at home. We
mhm.
spend,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
we need that place to feel it
Mhm,
is our second home, and it's okay to say that.
mhm.
And we need it to
Yep.
feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear the, and you and I were talking earlier about human-centered coaching, and I just hear the humanity that we get stuff done. And it sounds like you get a lot of stuff done at your school through people's humanity, through human connection, and not around, people's humanity, right? You're including it. And it's so intentionally creating human connection, I guess, is the best word. And I hear the intentionality in everything that you do.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that because it is, and we really feel just compelled to being about the people. Like the people are the heartbeat of our work,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we can say, here's our standards, and we have to teach this, but who
Yeah.
brings those
Who
standards to
would,
life,
right. Right, exactly. Yeah,
right?
education. Yeah, education is fundamentally a human
The
experience.
human experience. And if we didn't learn anything else through COVID, we should have learned that piece. That is the piece that was missing and for
Mhm. Yeah.
many of our people.
Humanity.
Some people may have thrived without it, but still,
Yeah.
you know, I just think that we have to embrace that piece. And
Hmm.
I will say, what are the results of this
Hmm. Hmm.
intentionality is um we now have a place where teachers are risk takers. All
Hmm.
staff are risk takers.
Hmm.
They can one of the a principal in another district coined the phrase green lighting, so saying yes to your staff, right? So our staff says Miss Skills, it's going to she'll green light an idea if it's good for kids and it doesn't cost any money, she'll green light it. So from that came like some space transformation. So for example, we have this hallway. It was just cinder block walls. Well, now it's an extra learning space. You'd really have to see it to be able to completely understand it, but there are whiteboards all along it at a
Mm.
student's height. We have magnets that hold up those little pillow seats,
Mhm.
so students can sit or kneel on the floor if they'd like. But it's just a place where it's like another classroom, right? But that was a teacher's idea. It wasn't
Yeah.
Miss Gills is going to make this thing or we have to do this. It was a teacher's idea. We have our when we during COVID, we started eating in the classrooms for lunch. We were already eating in the classrooms for breakfast. And so we also had to do a lot of reflection. What's good for kids? So
Mhm.
is eating in the classroom always good for adults? Okay, maybe not, but is it really good for most kids? It absolutely is, right? We eat lunch in the classroom now. So what is that? What happened to that cafeteria? Really, the idea was that cafeteria is only used 2 hours a day. We're at school 8 hours a day. How can we use
Mhm.
that cafeteria differently? That came from
Mhm.
staff.
Mhm.
And
I
so
love that.
it is now our library. So our
Oh my
library
goodness.
front and center of our school. And it's a pretty impressive library. Now, because we have to use that space for other things, our bookshelves are on wheels, right? So again, but the brains behind that, the design behind those things came from, we actually brought in students and some alumni and some parents and some community members to kind of design the space. So we're still in the early stages. If anybody wants to give us any money, no.
Any funders listening?
Right. But it's pretty magical. So when we did a VIP dance, a very important person dance, like we didn't want, again, we have to be sensitive, right, to our
Mhm.
community. So we didn't want to do daddy daughter or something that would be exclusive. We wanted to be inclusive. So we had to roll everything out, literally get everything out so that we could use that space. And
Yeah.
it should be back on Monday, ready for the
Yes, and it takes a school, right? It takes a community to transform that, right? From one thing to another and then back again. It's
Exactly.
not just you doing it all.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
lots of neat things. Then we took our old
Mm.
library that became a STEM space. Like the teachers
Oh, I
made all
love
this,
that.
they painted, they did all
Mhm.
kinds of things. I said, you know,
That's great.
teachers and paraprofessionals made all that happen.
I love this. Oh my gosh, you have so many great ideas. So we do have to wrap up. But I before we kind of sign off, I would love you to share what books have inspired you. So the folks listening, if they're like, "Hey, how can I know more about building culture aside from the very specific things that you have done?" What books have impacted your knowledge and skills around building culture?
Oh gosh. Okay, so I'm a huge Dave Burgess fan. So anything that comes out of Dave Burgess consulting. So the specifically lead like a pirate made me realize I guess I'm more of a pirate leader than a
Mhm.
compliant checkbox person. It just made me I was able to identify very well with that style, and it made me confident to be able to lead in my way instead of someone else's way. There is a book called The 4 O'Clock Faculty, and it's really it gave me some great ideas for how I could do some professional learning differently. Like for example, an idea that came out of there was Tech Mex Tuesday. So you have some technology piece you're rolling out. It's happening on a Tuesday, and of course we're having some Mexican treat, like like a taco or something like that. We did Appy Hour. That's where we're trying to roll out or teach some apps. So, I have 3 or 4 teachers or staff members who are sharing out an app like, wow, this is the best app. They're doing their elevator pitch. We have all the tools there for the people to be able to then go in and use them hands on. And then, of course, we have some appetizers because it's happy hour, right? So that came out of that 4 o'clock faculty. Culturized, when you're really talking about school culture, you need to read Jimmy Casas' School Culture. And then Todd Whitaker, he's done lots of really good things. So Todd Whitaker was actually the one I believe who had written the notes. And so I kind of shifted that a little differently. And then Joe Sanfilippo, and I don't want to miss the title of the book, so I'm not going to state it, although I do think, I think it's Hacking School Leadership, but I could be wrong. But he was a superintendent of a division called, and their mascot was the Crickets. And he really talked about all of the intentional work he did around branding the Crickets. And I thought, if he can brand the Crickets, go Crickets, and he'll say that at the end of he does this little podcast thing. He'll say that at the end of it. If he can brand the Crickets, I can brand the Dukes. And so that really was just like such inspiration to anything from like the hop up that we have that we take pictures of. It sits in our foyer, and across the big hop up it says, I'm so glad I'm a Duke.
Yes.
Right, and our
Yes.
families take a picture in front of that.
Yes.
So
I
lots of
love that.
yeah.
Oh, that's really great. You have so many little things that every time you give an example, I'm like, "Oh, that's so interesting." Yeah, I love that. Go ahead.
I just have to share one more. This is a
Mhm.
more recent one, recent in the last 4 years, I say. I've read lots. I read it all the time, but my current assistant principal, came in 4 years ago, and she was really about the love languages, and she kept talking about this is your love language, this is your love language. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I then found that they wrote a book called The Love Languages in the Workplace. So
Workplace.
of course
Uh-huh.
it's
Yep.
different. So really using that helped
Mhm.
me. I thought that I knew people and I thought I knew our staff, but it
Mhm.
really helped me know them and see things differently. And then,
Mhm.
but the key is it's not just about seeing it differently, it's about how I respond. So I'm
Yep.
more intentional now about, the person who needs the affirmations, like really seeing that in them and making sure that I give that time. Some people need time. So just, I know we all need more time, but this person needs my undivided attention to just talk about life. And I know that about her. And if I do that, then things are golden
Mhm.
afterwards. So
That's really great. Oh, you're like so resource rich around this.
thank
So
you.
thank you so much for sharing all of the things that not even all of it. I'm sure there's even more. If we could talk for 10 more hours, so many more things would come up. But thank you so much for taking the time to share with me and the listeners around all the amazing things you're doing. Um, if anyone wants to find out more about what you're doing or even get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Sure. So they can, I am really connected on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it,
I
Jenny
know, I
Gills,
still call it Twitter.
at Jenny Gills. I am also on LinkedIn. Always can private message me. I'm happy to share my contact information with you if you
Yeah,
want to
for
share
sure.
that
Yeah, I'll
out.
put it in the show notes.
Yeah, and of course, but personal email is fine as well.
Uh-huh. Okay, great. Yeah, I will share all that information in the show notes so you can just click a link and find you in any
Yes.
platform that
Yeah.
works for them. So, thank you so much again for being here. I have learned a lot. And I've really been touched and moved by the work you're doing at your school.
Thank you. I'm quite passionate about it. So
Yes.
thank you so much for letting me share.
Yeah.